Hello and welcome to Sport Business. This morning we are joined by Kieran McSweeney of the Gaelic Players Association and Ronan Doyle of Connolly Partners. The reason why these good gentlemen are with me this morning is that later on today, the GPA will be announcing a new charity partnership, and part of that will be the unveiling of a brand new identity. Earlier on this year, the Men's Gaelic Players Association merged with the Women's Gaelic Players Association to create one unified representative body for the elite of our Gaelic games. The identity, as you can see on the screen before you now, is new and fresh. And to talk about it, first of all, you're very welcome, Kieran McSweeney.
Thanks very much, Rob, for having us and for giving us this opportunity to talk about both the charity partnership and the reveal of the new unified GPA brand.
It's very interesting to me and to our audience as a broadly based sporting and business community, but the way that we represent ourselves is always very important. How difficult or how challenging was it to bring the two organizations together under a single unified banner?
If I tell you that it was not that difficult, I would probably be cutting the whole interview short. Look, I suppose there was a process behind it. It wasn't that difficult, but there was a process that had to be undertaken. The merger with the WGPA and the GPA happened back in December. Since then, we have been operating under two brands. So we've had two sets of social media accounts, two websites, two logos. It took time to get that unified brand in place. A number of reasons for that. Obviously, there was a change in our CEO, and Tom Parsons came in as CEO of the GPA, and he needed to be on board and part of this process as we're moving along. But also in terms of why we're revealing it now, we have a charity partnership, which, as you say, we will be launching a little bit later on today in Croke Park. I can tell you that's with Cleanest Foundation, who are based in Limerick. Cleanest Foundation, who raise money for families with seriously sick children. So if you're from Cork and you need to go to Temple Street or Crumlin, the expense that's obviously involved there in terms of parents and family having to stay up in Dublin, etc. Cleanest Foundation do great work in terms of helping families with those types of expenses. So that's who we're partnering with, and that will be revealed at Croke Park today. The actual merger with the WGPA, I suppose that had happened in stages. Back in December was the last piece of the puzzle in terms of the formal unification of the two associations. But for 18 months to 2 years before that, we hadn't been merged, but we had been very much aligned in terms of the work we were doing, programs that were being offered to players, etc. So there was a lot of cooperation between the two organizations for 18 months to 2 years prior to last December. And as I was saying, why it's important now that we're doing this reveal of the unified brand is come the 12th of July, Tom Parsons takes over formally as CEO. And also that will be the day of our AGM. So our National Executive Committee will put in place. Since back in December, we've had a transitional National Executive Committee in place, which has overseen things that has been representative, both the male membership and the female membership. At the AGM on the 12th of July, everyone coming together, the new NEC being put in place. And I suppose it's the beginning of a new chapter for the GPA as such. So that's why timing wise now is the right time to reveal the new unified GPA brand that we'll all be operating under going forward. So as of last night at midnight, our social media channels were all merged. Our website, that what had been the WGPA website, is no longer being in use. Everyone was being directed to the at GaelicPlayers.com. And going forward, it will be, as I say, very much unified, one brand. And we'll talk about the actual brand work and what became part of that. But I suppose the key bit is that it's respecting the heritage of both organizations. It respects the heritage of the WGPA and all the great work they had done in terms of female players. It respects the heritage of the GPA, and it's very much, I suppose, a partnership of equals going forward. We were very much keen on the fact that this was based on respect for both organizations, for male and female players. It was a unification rather than an asylumation of one into the other.
We're looking forward to that on the 12th, to getting Tom in. We'll no doubt have him on Sport for Business as well to talk about some of the initiatives. It has been a really strong period despite all of the challenges. The championships got played last year in ladies football, in camogie, and in football and hurling. So all of those players have put their hard work in. They're well represented by the GPA and have been since both organisations were brought to life. But bringing two strong heritages, pre-strong brands from the three strong sports together, is often much easier when you look back on it than it is from the beginning. The man who looked at it from that beginning is Ronan Doyle from Connolly Partners, and you're very welcome to Sport for Business as well, Ronan.
Thanks very much, Rob. I was delighted to get involved with the project. I think one of the good things from kind of our side is that at CP we've got a kind of a defiantly human way of thinking, and with the GPA having the players really at the heart of everything they do, and having being able to collaborate with the players right from concept to the final kind of logo, I think was a real help, and I think perfect fit for Connolly Partners to get involved. Design
can be such a subjective activity. Having to work in the consideration of so many different players and so many different areas within the sports. Was that something that you found difficult, or was everybody bought into the fact that you were the expert in design?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, I had some neat ideas, I think, early on, because especially when it came to color, because color was one of the things that, we knew that we couldn't associate with a certain color set, because you don't want to be associated with any one particular, say, county color, but it's more of an umbrella to get the GPA kind of an overarching kind of color. But I can bring you through some of those kind of thinkings with a couple of slides that I'd love to share.
Yeah, that'd be great. Color, visual identity, it is all incredibly important. And with sport being so tribal, I could just imagine the angst and the howls of despair that would come if it had been predominantly blue, or if it had been predominantly red, and you were red side of Cork. So yeah, please do talk us through, as we can see on the screen now.
Absolutely. Let me just share. Yeah, so just to give you guys, to give everyone a bit of an overview, the task really here was to develop a visual identity for the merged WGPA and the GPA under a larger, stronger brand that will be used across all kind of communications. And our objective was to create that clear identity that reflects that the role of the new GPA in representing and helping to realise the potential of all inter-county GAA players, both as athletes and more importantly as people. And it works kind of, we kind of started looking at a vision, and that vision was to create an environment that upholds the brilliance of all our inter-county players and games, allowing Gaelic players to excel as high-performing athletes on the pitch and in their lives off the pitch, unprejudiced by team, tier, gender or sport. And then when we looked at the mission, it was to balance the huge demands placed on players with the opportunities, support and investment required for them to be at their best, both on and off the pitch. And our values that we were looking at is that we are leaders, we are caring, we are ambitious, and we are innovators. Generally with any identity, the first kind of step for me is to look at things that we can be influenced by, and some of those things, we obviously have the WGPA and the GPA as it currently standard, along with kind of influences around Gaelic football and hurling and camogie. But from there, we kind of looked at certain kind of headings and other kind of other identities that might inspire us under these headings. I'm kind of thinking headings like sport, a balance or equilibrium, identities that might suggest uniqueness or individuality, even brands that might have emerged in the past, as well as gender equality and competitive victory were other kind of words of inspiration. And from kind of looking at other brands, the process really would be to what I call kind of thumbnail sketches. So we look at the same types of headings and we literally blitz hundreds and hundreds of kind of 10-second sketches that we might use for getting kind of a thought kind of process going, you know.
And they're all hand drawn out as you go through the process, yeah.
Yeah, literally with a pen and paper. I don't think there's any better start than just using the freedom of literally a pencil. Is definitely the best start point you could have, you know.
It's kind of like almost the idea of a kick pass in Gaelic football. It's something that was kind of cute and quaint back in the day and has become slightly out of fashion, but there's always a place for it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that you know you'd start with a computer and all these brilliant kind of applications like Photoshop and all that kind of stuff. But it's important, really, I think, to be not led by the technology, but really it's the thinking. And I think, again, you know, having the freedom of a simple pencil and paper is always the best way to kick off an identity project like this. Early on, we looked at color, and that was one of the key kind of things, because we wanted to inject a lot of energy into the logo. But as the GPA represents the interests, obviously, of players from all counties, our thinking was that we should consider a color set that has a neutral kind of a meaning. And that led us to using the colors RGB, red, green, and blue. These are seen as the primary colors of light. And when those colors are mixed, you inherently end up with white, which gives us the idea of equality, which is really important. But we represent red through representation, green through development, and blue through welfare. So they're kind of the pillars of the GPA, and that's how we kind of came up with the idea of using the RGB. There's other nice meanings behind the colors themselves. Obviously, red, many people would probably know, you know, it's passion and courage and energy and pride. Green gives us growth, security, sensitivity, and change. Blue for empathy, trust, respect, and understanding. And again, white was really important because it's the equality, it's the neutrality, it's balanced, it's pure. But together, the RGB mixed creates white through the process of mixing those colors together.
I have a thing for purple, as might be evidenced throughout the Sport for Business website. I do believe that colour has an enormous impact, and clearly that's been very carefully considered here. Kieran, was this a one presentation? Yep, love that. That's a done deal, or were there a few iterations that you had to go through?
There was a few iterations, and to be fair to the guys in Connolly Partners, when they came back to us, Ronan and the team came back to us with their first drafts as such. There was, I think, 4 different versions, 4 different avenues that they had gone down, is probably the best way to describe it. And that's what I really liked about this process. It was very much a collaboration, rather than the guys going off and going down one path and coming back to us and saying, this is it. They gave us 4 potential avenues that we could have, 4 potential directions we could have gone down. In that meeting, I think, Ronan, at that stage, when we had 4, I think we narrowed it down at that stage down to 2, which were kind of the standout. And I think Connolly Partners, to be fair to them, presented all 4 in a very neutral way and left it to us to make the decision as which ones to follow. We picked 2, and afterwards they did tell us, well, they're actually the 2 that we think are the right direction to go as well. So whether they were just telling us that because we were their client and they wanted to make us look good, I don't know. But we went down 2 avenues then. and the guys worked both of those up and presented to a smaller team then, including obviously Tom Parsons as CEO, myself, and a couple more. And we worked through those with questions, comments, feedback, workshopped them and tweaked both of them to come up with the final versions of both. And then it was a decision between two avenues, and one, I suppose, very much kind of stood out as what we believe to be the stronger one. As Ronan spoke about, the visual representation of our brand now very much represents our 4 pillars of representation, welfare, development, and equality, which became one of our pillars when the merger went through. But also even things like the 2 players in the actual silhouette, they're both looking forward in the one direction, and it's about us moving forward now together, our male and female membership. We're not going to talk about male and female membership going forward. They're GPA members, and that's how we view it. And that's why I suppose that this, to us as the GPA, and really to players, as I was saying, players were so integral to this whole process. They were consulted at each stage of the process, through workshops, through one-to-one interviews, through our National Executive Committee, which is very much player-led, and even to board level. And we have a number of players obviously on our board as well. So players were central to all of this. And I suppose that was the beauty of the process from my point of view. I had my, like everyone, Rob, and you know me, I have my opinions, and you've known me for quite some time, and I'm not shy to share those opinions. But this process, I was very much trying to, I suppose, take a step back and allow everyone to have their say in equal measure. And it was incredible from the starting off process to where we got to. Everyone moved in that one direction. Yeah. There wasn't massive pulling or dragging one way over another. Because it was such a collaborative process, led by the guys in Connolly Partners, we were all moving in a direction. Now, that's not to say that there wasn't hands held up along the way and said, I don't think that's right, I think we need to change that. It wasn't that we were all thinking in the one direction the whole time. There was questions asked, tweaks made, but because it was such a collaborative process involving our agency and Connolly Partners, ourselves and players, at no stage were we surprised. I suppose that's the best way to put it. When we saw the final version, the final 2 versions, and we made that ultimate choice, there was no real sense of surprise, which I think was a good thing. It just showed that the process had worked, and we were all on, I don't want to sound like I'm talking on the X Factor, Rob, but we were all on that journey together as such.
Yeah,
well, it is kind of appropriate that you've moved from a CEO from Dublin to a CEO from Mayo, and blue, red and green are the 3 colours in there. No doubt there will be many more people who are throwing such simplistic barbs at it. If I can finish off with you, Ronan, this is like a player graduating from minor to senior now. You've crafted it, you've formed it, you've shaped it, you've been able to actually bring it to life, bring it to the best it could be, and now it's out there in the world and it has to make its own way. Are you comfortable with how it looks now? Are you comfortable that this was a job well done, that you're representing Gaelic players in as best a way as you possibly could?
Yeah, I am really proud of it. I think we all can be, you know. I think, you know, even when we looked at it kind of early on, with the existing assets, there was attributes of both the GPA and the WGPA logo that we've brought through. Obviously having the players at the center of the logo, I think, was really important. But as well as that, the WGPA, even bringing through some of that lowercase, kind of more friendlier, less corporate kind of lettering, I thought was a good kind of thought. And then just to build on familiarity of some of the assets that people would already be kind of familiar with, you know.
Well, that's the win, when you can bring 2 organizations together and bring the strengths of both to make them stronger as a single unit. It's been great to be able to reveal what the new identity looks like. It's going to be there for a while. My thanks to Ronan Doyle from Connolly Partners, who was the man with the pen on the paper to actually bring it to life in the first place. And of course, to Kieran McSweeney from the Gaelic Players Association, off now to launch that charity partnership with Cleaners Foundation. No doubt we will be back talking to you later on in the summer. But for now, thank you both very much for taking the time to be with us this morning.
Thanks, Rob.